town is Georgian Dublin, an area which houses more than 1 mile of Georgian buildings. It was here that many of Ireland's most famous artists and writers chose to live. But it's the architecture itself that's particularly impressive, as it's all unique to Dublin.
The main characteristics of Georgian architecture in Dublin is that they are made of brick, mostly red brick. And it's that makes them different. And then you have these wonderful door cases with their fan lights, which are one of the main aspects of our Georgian architecture. The windows in a Georgian house are very important, the proportions of them. The main floor was always on the first floor and always had large windows. These were the big reception rooms. Up above them, slightly smaller windows would be the bedrooms for the parents and the nannies and the children. In Fitzwilliam Square, there's a house that Jack Yates, the painter, lived in. There's another which was the home and still is the home of her family of Mamie Jellett, a very well-known painter. And then Oscar Wilde house is on Merrion Square, and you could go on and on.
It's not just the exteriors of these buildings that capture the essence of the 18th century. Hotels such as the Merrion have managed to transform 4 Georgian townhouses into one big one.
The houses themselves were originally private dwellings which were built in the 1760s by a chap called Lord Monk. He occupied number 22, which is now the hall door of the hotel, effectively. The other 3, number 21, 23 and 24 were occupied, sold by Lord Monk and occupied by Lord Antrim in 23 and Arthur Wellesley in 24, who was the father of the first Duke of Wellington. Dublin is blessed with a vast array of magnificent Georgian buildings covering all sorts, and some would say that ours is a more subtle interpretation of the very ornate plasterwork that can be found in some of the properties. I think it's certainly amongst the finest, not only for that reason, but the role that it played throughout the history of Dublin. To have the birthplace of the Duke of Wellington, who in turn affected the entire history of Europe and the modern day world, is a fairly substantial boast by any standards.
It also houses one of the largest private art collections in Dublin, second only to the National Gallery, which happens to be just across the road. Whilst walking the streets of Georgian Dublin, take some time to look at what's below ground as well as what's above it. Hidden away discreetly are several basement flats showing artworks from local artists, like here at the bizarrely named Pepper Canister Gallery.
The name of the gallery is inspired by a church. The correct name is St. Stephen's Church, but because it looks a little bit like a pepper pot, it's always known as the Pepper Canister Church. In this show, you'll see the work of, in a way, almost old masters, or masters certainly of the 20th century, like the work of William Scott.
That's this week's Cultural Tourist from the Art Club.